Hi, welcome to Humor is Cheaper Than Therapy podcast. This is Shelley, the middle daughter, and I'm joined by my sisters Kelly and Margot and our mom Terry. We are not doctors or therapists. We are simply ordinary women who happen to be related and have fun spending time together laughing and talking. We hope you enjoy listening to our casual conversations as we discuss the ups and downs of normal life, hopefully with a lot of laughter peppered in. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, my name is Terry. Some people on this podcast call me Mom, and some of them call me Grandma. I live in Billings, Montana, and I'm podcasting with my 3 daughters and a granddaughter tonight.
And I am one of those daughters, and it's my daughter we're podcasting with tonight. I am Kelly from Minnesota.
Hi, and I'm Margot from Montana.
And this is Shelley. I'm in Minnesota. I'm also one of the daughters. And our special guest today is Jackie Smith, and she is a foster parent. And so our subject tonight is fostering children and raising children. And get ready for some laughs because it's going to be fun.
Absolutely. Hi,
So
Jackie.
welcome. Welcome to the
Hi.
podcast.
Hello.
Hello, Jackie.
Hello.
Loving the baby sounds in the background.
I just told the older girls what's going on so that they can know.
Understand
Know
and
why they're
talking
in the
to real
closet?
people.
May not be answered.
Yeah, you put it. This is why you must go into the closet now.
Yes, they are locked in with snacks. They will be fine.
Snacks
And water.
games. Yeah, don't forget the water. Never locked my kids in the closet, but I always threatened to hang them in the closet by the toenails if they didn't shape up.
Yikes.
That's right.
And
So-
legally we can't. So
Right. Let's not forget that part. So Jackie, I wanted to just say that welcome, first of all, to the podcast. It's really fun to have you. I am excited to hear about your foster parenting journey. And I wanted to remind you, remember the day we got on House Party with my friend Kelly?
Oh yeah.
That was really cool because she asked you questions that I never thought to ask. And I thought that was really, really interesting. Like, how do you do it? I would get too attached. I couldn't do it because I'd get too attached and I'd be too judgmental.
That's the whole point though, is to get too attached. You might,
I
as
agree.
a foster parent, be the only secure attachment these kids ever have.
Wow, that's awesome.
So it's not, anytime you walk with God and do what he asks you to, it's not comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And this is testament to that for sure.
For sure. For sure. What made you get started with foster parenting?
Well, it probably all started coming about when Tom and Amy, Dad's brother and wife, started fostering. And I always said that too. I couldn't do it. I'd get too attached. I couldn't say goodbye to these kids. And they would always come back at me with that, then you'd be perfect. If you would get too attached, you would be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And then 13 years into our marriage, the kids just didn't happen for us. And probably about 2 years before that, actually, because we started fostering, we've been married 16 years. We've been doing this for 3 years. So 2 years before that or so is when our friends were going through their rough divorce and we were helping take care of their 2-year-old daughter all the time. And that's when my husband was like, you know what? I could love someone else's kid, because he really didn't think that it was possible for him to love and care for a child that wasn't biologically his.
Oh, okay.
Growing up as an only child, he never really had those cousins or siblings to bond with. It's a lot different coming from our big giant family.
Right.
And
But
our
so-
big giant family did grow with your aunt and uncle, and then their daughter adopted. How many is she adopted now? 6?
Yeah, 4, I think. She has 6 total.
Let me think. 1, 2, 3, 4. I feel like might be more in there, but and
There's so many, it's hard to count.
it is. It really is.
What incredibly blessed people. My goodness.
They got
It's just-
a bunch.
Yeah.
They got a bunch, and so do their her parents. They got even twice that many, and
So-
it's amazing to see.
So back to kind of our journey. So 13 years in, we realized that this was something we wanted to do. It just took an extra 6 years for Levi to get on the same page, because by the time we had that other little one hanging out all the time, I knew this was what I wanted to do. And so it just took him a little extra time to get there. And we just I sent an email to someone who sent me a package who had some paperwork. We filled out the paperwork, sent it in, and that was in January of 2017. And by April, we were licensed provisionally. We hadn't had our home study yet. And the day we got our provisional license, we got our first kiddo.
Wow.
I'd like to also welcome to the show our uninvited guest. I can't say her name, but we're enjoying her sounds.
Yeah, both babies are contributing here.
Oh, wonderful.
So since then, we've had 17 placements. We've had 1, 2, 3. We're about to have our 4th successful reunification. We
Wow.
had one kiddo run away. She was 17 and about to age out, and she decided she didn't like where things were going. And then we had 2 that went on to a higher level of care, meaning that they had some special needs that we just weren't able to provide for them mentally.
Okay.
And then we've had a couple that came into the home and then immediately got placed with family. So they were only here for a few days.
And when you say placed, does that mean they were adopted?
No, that means that their family was going to do kinship foster care. There's lots of different levels of foster care.
Oh, okay.
So what we're doing is right now is like emergency foster care, where we take in unrelated kiddos that have been removed for whatever situation. Usually in Montana, it's going to be abuse or neglect.
Okay.
Mostly it's neglect, and the neglect is usually fueled by some sort of drug use.
Mm.
However, we've had kiddos that were in our home because their parents just didn't know how to take care of them. They didn't know how to take care of a home.
Okay.
And then there's fictive kin, which is where you maybe know someone. So like teachers are usually considered fictive kin if they take in a kiddo in their class as foster care. Somebody you know at church who has a friend who brings their kid to church and they end up in foster care, but you have a connection with them. It's basically anyone you've bonded with. So like
Okay.
Miss T, that first little girl I was talking about, our friend's daughter, if she would have ever needed to be placed, she would have been a fictive kin placement because we're not related. And then
Okay.
of course kinship is related. So that's like your niece, your nephew, your cousins, your grandkids,
Mm-hmm.
third cousin twice removed. It doesn't matter as long as there's a bloodline there. That's our
Okay.
our 8-month-old is going to move on Friday to her biological
Oh.
dad's niece.
Oh, wow.
So that would be her cousin.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that maybe there's.
So, Jackie, I'd
Oh,
like
and-
to understand how it was for you to
Mhm.
get 2 3-day-old babies, literally just months apart.
I mean, the first one was kind of a shock. Like, she was actually 2 days old when she came to us. I got the call when she was 1 day old that they had her. So it was a 24-hour period of doing everything I can to get ready for this little kiddo to come into our home. And then since we've never had a baby, let alone one that young, it was quite the culture shock. Did you have a specific question, Mom?
I'm curious to know how that went because you never did have a child of your own.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you've ever cared for a newborn baby.
No, I think the youngest I've cared for is maybe 3 or 4 weeks old.
Yeah.
And so it was different. Like I said, it's a culture shock that waking up every 3 to 4 hours to feed and change. And then 4 months in, when you get one to sleep through the night, then you get a call for a 3-day-old.
The reason I
And then you
ask
get
is
to
if
do it all over
anybody listens to this that is considering foster care in any way,
Mm-hmm.
I want to encourage them that just because it's a newborn baby doesn't mean you can't handle it.
Right, exactly. I mean, you just do.
It's like anybody else with their first child. They don't know how when they first bring it home, but they just kind of figure it out as they go. The
I'm-
difference is most people have that 9 months to get ready. You had a day.
And it's like our first kiddo, I mean, he was 10. He was with us for not even 24 hours. And it was kind of the same thing. You just jump in, feet first, and do what you got to do and bring them home, feed them dinner, shower them, give them clean clothes, make sure they have a toothbrush. Just this way, with babies, you're bringing them home and making sure you got formula and diapers, and you just do.
I
Right,
do
you rise
remember
to the occasion.
I do remember when you started this journey, you told them no children that weren't potty trained.
I know we only wanted 13 and up.
That's a good one, Jackie.
I know. Well, our very first call was for a 13-year-old and her 3-year-old sister. And I said, I don't have any way to care for a toddler. I was still working full time. And that was kind of the big thing is we needed kiddos who could maybe be home alone for an hour, who could walk to work and be there and occupy themselves and entertain themselves. We had to say no to that 13-year-old and that 3-year-old. And I think about it every day. Every day those kiddos pop into my mind and I wonder if I should have said yes.
But now you know you could.
And that's just like two weeks ago when we got these older girls, they're 8 and 9. They were our third sibling group of 2 that we had been asked to take. The first one was a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and then a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and then 8-year-old and 9-year-old. And I was trying to figure out how I was going to say yes to all these kids when I only had 4 open beds and 2 babies. Luckily, God bless us with 2 very well-behaved little girls.
That's wonderful. And vocal.
Yeah, this one is.
She's singing.
That's Miss Thing there. She is telling me all about her day. Is that funny? I don't know what we were talking about. Sorry.
That's part of being a mom. Distractions make you lose your memory.
They're cute distractions, though.
Darn right.
So the other part of what we're going to talk about is funny stories about parenting. Jackie, do you have any funny stories yet?
I probably have more than you'd care to know about.
Probably.
So our second placement was a 10-year-old boy, and he was with us for 27 months. And about 2 months in, he went to camp, and I got a phone call from a camp counselor saying Z is in our nurse's office here, and he's complaining that something in his underwear hurts. And
Uh-oh.
we need to take a look. Are you okay with us looking? And I was like, well, yeah, if he's okay with it, please look and tell me what's going on. They called me back later and said, it's just a heat rash. We put this cream on it. He'll be okay.
Oh my gosh.
But that was kind of my first big, it was literally we got him April 27th, 2017. And that was the July 4th weekend. So
Wow.
I guess it was about 8 weeks in.
That's
Wow.
like a violent shove into the
Yeah.
crazy things that happen as a parent.
All right.
Yes. And that kiddo, he was quite the kid. When he came to us, he didn't know how to interact with adults at all. He would bark and meow at them when asked a question because he didn't know that it was okay to talk to them or how to talk to them. And by the time he left here, he was a social butterfly.
Yes,
That's
he was.
great.
How old you were, who you were, he was going to sit down and have a conversation with you and tell you all about Pokemon.
Oh, fond memories.
Yeah. I was just wondering if anyone else had any questions or wanted me to expand on anything.
I want to thank you for doing foster care because I understand that there's very few that actually do it in Montana,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a huge need. And I think just hearing you talk about the fact that you didn't know what you're doing, you just did it, and that sometimes people that work full time think, I can't. I can't. I can't be here. I have to work, so they just don't realize that, yeah, you can. You just have to get childcare,
Right.
or
And
figure
that's
it out. But
kind of the thing about it is that there is help for that. Like when we had that second kiddo's little sisters and they had to be in daycare because I was working full time, the state paid for that. All I had to pay out of pocket is if they did something special, like for their summer camps when they would do weekly things like going to the pool and stuff like that. And it was a flat fee for both girls.
okay.
I was going to say our town is probably the biggest town in the state. However, it's a small town and it's difficult to foster care in a small town because it turns out everyone knows everyone
Mm-hmm.
somehow.
That was
And-
a scary moment in fostering too.
Right. It's difficult because you could see the parent. If you're in St. Paul or something, you probably won't run into a parent in or at grocery store. We do run into those people.
Yeah, the
And-
biggest thing was with one of our kiddos, he ran into his abuser twice while he was with us. Once at the grocery store without me. And that's another story about why he was at the grocery store without an adult. That was a grounding offense there. But then there was at the doctor. I was walking him into the doctor, and his abuser was in the parking lot trying to talk to him, and watching that kid have a panic attack was really scary and really hard.
So you mentioned
And Jackie, I was just going to say, and within our own family, at one point, a
Mhm.
cousin actually said, "Oh, I know
those
that
kids.
boy."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course,
And
the
it's-
kids never put that together, but even to this
Isn't that
day.
interesting? No, the kids didn't, but which is
Yeah.
good. That was good.
I like that you
Yeah, it is
mentioned
crazy.
grounding offenses, Jackie, because what did you think of grounding offenses when you were 10, 12, 14?
I don't honestly remember really being grounded. I remember being sent to my room, and I never really cared because I had my books and,
Right.
you know.
And that's one of the things I did when I did foster care.
Mhm.
I grounded my little gal right out of her room and locked the door and said, she was like 11, I think, wasn't she, Jackie?
Yeah, about 11 or 12.
There's the washing machine. Wash your clothes for school tomorrow. You're not going back in your room. You're grounded with us.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, that kid was a learning curve. He came from a home where when he would get in trouble, they'd kick him out of the house. So he could just like have the run of the neighborhood. 10-year-old boy not allowed to come home because he made a sandwich and cut it into thirds for him and his sisters to share. He stole food. So he had to make do the rest of the day on his own. You know, and so he would just he'd go knock on all the doors and see if any of his friends lived there, and he would just go to the store and steal candy bars and whatnot, and you know, he just did what he had to do to survive.
Right. And that's sad. And I grew up with a family. Some of my best friends, I've been friends with them for 40 some years. They got home from school at 3:00. They did some chores. They ate macaroni and cheese for supper, and they were kicked out of the house before their stepdad got home. And not allowed to come home until 9 p.m. If they weren't home at 9, they were out for the night, and they had to come home and go straight to bed. They spent a lot of time at our house because my mom and dad were like, that's not right. We may not be the greatest parents in the world, but we can feed these kids. They can stay at our
We
house.
didn't even rank up there with mediocre parents. We were.
Mom, you were all right
Okay.
parents. Or
We
should
all
I say, after the last podcast, you were groovy parents.
Okay.
Well, Grandma, you must have done something right, because look at where your girls are now.
Actually, I might say I did a lot of things wrong, and they learned from my mistakes.
Well, if you
Mom,
didn't do it and they didn't learn from it.
I believe we all did actually one of the same, and I'm using quotey fingers, mistakes that you did, but somehow we figured out that maybe you were right and we shouldn't have babies before we were adults, and
Yeah,
none of us
probably.
had babies before we were, or none of our children had babies before they were graduated and adults. So.
You know, that really messed with our heads, though, because like Christy and I both thought something was wrong when here we are 24, and I was married by 24, but I didn't have 4 kids, and she wasn't, and she didn't have 4 kids or a husband on the prospects, and really kind of messed with us for our 20s.
See, we're all doing the best we can. We're all doing the best we can.
Yep.
But we really felt like we were doing something wrong.
Never knew that.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a
Well, now
lot
you
of
know
things
better.
wrong when I met your dad, and it's a great blessing in my life that I met your dad, or I don't even
Mine
want to
too.
think. Yeah, yours too. Oh, that's funny right there. We haven't heard
So
anything.
Margot, Margot's been very quiet. I wonder if she has a funny story about maybe being a sibling.
She's a mom too.
Being a sibling to my sisters that didn't really like me too much.
Well, you are the baby. Come on. The bratty baby.
Right? The spoiled little
Mhm.
brat. Mhm. I don't know. I couldn't really think of too many super funny stories of my boys. There's 2 stories with growing up. Well, not growing up. Well, I guess I did kind of grow up having kids, but is 2 things that really stick out with me with Riker is this story, which I wasn't there, but when you and Dad lost him at West Park Plaza.
Oh, my Lanta.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I wasn't there, but just hearing the story after you guys told it, still to this day makes me nauseous.
Okay, this is not a funny story. This is
It's
a
not.
traumatic story. Why are we
I
telling
know.
this one?
Well, we actually kind of knew where he was.
Kinda.
Sort of, kind of.
I lost more
Yeah.
than one grandchild in my life. I lost Nathan too.
Yeah, we did. We did lose Nathan.
We are very lucky that these missing stories turned out so well.
Yes.
Whew.
Yes. And then the other memory that really sticks into my brain with my boys is the time that Mom, you and me and Dad, we were like at the Metra, and it was like home improvement show or something, and Riker was just like 2-ish, and he was up on Dad's shoulders, and I don't remember who it was, if it was you or if it was me, but we were feeding him pretzels, pieces of, pretzel, and he started to choke on the pretzel, and I immediately started panicking because my child is choking, and Dad just calmly takes him down, kind of gets him upside down so his head is kind of down, and just kind of like just puts his hand in, which seemed like all the way down his esophagus, and just scooped out the pretzel, and then was like, "Are you okay, Riker? All right," and then puts him back on his shoulders.
Just like a dad would.
Well,
And we just continue on. And I'm like, well, my kid almost died eating a pretzel. Like, shouldn't we take a moment? Just take a moment here.
Mama needs to recover.
well, I would have to say Dad was calm in that story because number one, he was an EMT and a volunteer firefighter. Mom was an EMT. You were too little to remember that. I remember it because I remember the pagers and the dial phone ringing the long ring when there's a call. But that I believe is how Dad was able to very calmly handle that situation. And that is funny because I would have panicked too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
So those are the two things that just really stick out in my mind. Parenting. Riker
Well-
could never eat anything without choking. Nothing. It didn't matter. You just give him this one itty bitty little macaroni noodle, and he would find a way to choke on it. And it was,
Well, that's like my 8-month-old. She'll gag herself all the time. She'll just be shoving food in her mouth, and then the next thing you know, she's like, "What? Slow down."
Kid.
At first, I thought she was choking, but then I realized that she's gagging.
Jason always says that Riker aged him 20 years
No doubt.
because
No doubt.
how many times that kid would just choke on something. And,
This is where the gray hairs come from, people.
yes. Mhm.
Well, I'd like to lighten it up with a funny story
Okay.
about my second child. I can't even remember how old he was. I'm going to say maybe 8 or 10. 8. Go with 8. And who's afraid of spiders? This girl. But my son thought it would be really funny to catch a big old spider and bring it in the house. And what did he do? He comes up the stairs and he puts it down the front of my sundress.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. And boy, was he surprised when that dress came off faster than anything. And as I'm screaming, and I think I found it and saved it, little stinker, but I got him back. You know what I did? I made him watch Arachnophobia.
Oh, good one.
I still don't think I've ever seen that movie all the way through.
Yes, I did.
Oh, it's a great
So, yeah.
movie.
I remember trying to watch it in the hospital when I was 9. I
Okay.
definitely never made it through it then.
Right.
It's ridiculous now. It's funny. You can almost see the spiders on the strings, but
Right.
it sure made him remember not to do that to mom again.
Oh, I love creative punishments. That's the best.
Probably cruel because I'm scarred for life because you made me watch that Grizzly movie, so I apparently had to do it to him. I don't know.
Are we gonna go
Oh, you should
there
see the stuff
again?
that kid does now. He's fine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was payback.
Yes, that kid actually had to come save me one time because I was at an apartment and I had to get into the apartment, but we had had a really super dry summer that year and the spiders were horrible.
I remember
And
that.
so your second born had to come and kill the spider, which he didn't kill. He just put in a jar and he probably still has it.
I was going to say, he still brings them darn things home. And he's brought home some nasty ones, and I've had to threaten him with
Yes.
death.
I
You
know.
guys have much scarier ones.
I've seen the
You have much
pictures of the
scarier
Black
ones out in
Widows.
Montana.
Oh, I was furious when I found that out.
All right, Kelly, how about you? Do you have a funny story?
Oh gosh, I have so many.
What?
I
Pick one.
actually have two I want to talk about. One is
Okay.
actually very current. So, you never get over that being a mom concerned for your kids. I don't care how old they
Right.
are.
Yes.
You're their mom and you are concerned. So this
At
weekend,
Absolutely.
71, I can attest to that. Yes.
or last weekend, there were two things that happened with two of my children that made my heart race, and now I want to move in with them. So one was
Uh-oh.
well, no, they're none of them are their fault. It's just mom wants to wrap her arms around them and protect them. So Christy was grilling, and her grill malfunctioned, and she went out and literally found her grill melting. It was so hot. So
Oh my goodness.
she
On her wooden deck.
on her wooden deck. Fortunately, it rained right away. It was going to rain. That's why she went to check grill, I think. And they got the propane tank. She was home alone, but her friend came over. He got the propane tank off. Everything cooled down, and she's now buying a new grill. This was a name brand grill. It was not just, Joe Blow's grill from the backyard hardware store. Quite scary in the event that their neighbor's house on Cinco de Mayo started on fire and she went and rescued them from their home. Just crazy. And I think it was the same day, my son, Nathan, was out disc golfing and sends us a picture of the snake that he had just walked over on the path. Didn't even see it. Fortunately, didn't step on it. And it had crawled in the shrubbery. And it's a picture of a copperhead snake.
It was literally between his feet.
Yep.
Like he
They
had
don't
to finish
tell me
his
these
step.
things.
He saw the snake mid-step and had to finish the step.
Yep.
Oh boy.
And he didn't panic.
Wow.
So,
Pretty impressed he didn't panic. I'd have panicked.
right?
Well,
Yeah,
why
'cause
don't you
he's-
live down there yet?
Knowing that this boy wears flip-flops all the time.
Everywhere.
Not
Winter, spring, summer, or fall. So that's my current story. Adult children.
Yeah, but that's not a
I want to
story
mom
of
them.
Parenting.
No, the one about parenting is, so when your kids fight and fight and fight and fight and you just get to your breaking point of it, you've had enough.
No, my kids never had a fight.
So my two oldest,
Liar.
Jackie and Steven, had a marathon day of fighting, and I was over it. So I said, let's all go to the front yard. Get me a lawn chair, get me a beer. I want you to fight it out right now, right here in front of me. And the looks on their faces were incredibly hilarious. And they're like, you want us to do what? I said, you want to fight? I want to be entertained. Let's go. You know what? The fight was over. It was over.
And I did that once, Kelly.
Yeah?
I did that. And I said, go, let them fight. Let them fight. And it was you and Shelley.
No.
And she smacked you or something and ran, and you grabbed her hair because she had all this hair.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've heard this
I
story.
think, yeah.
Yep.
Shelley could hit. She
Let 'em
could hit
fight.
pretty well, but boy, she would then run, and that hair behind her, I could just reach and catch her close enough to grab that hair and yank her back. Yep. And then put her down and lick her face.
Notice I'm silent here.
Hey, since we're talking about parenting, I have kind of a parenting win to share.
Okay.
My husband and I get to have the whole weekend alone without children for the first time since September of last year.
Awesome.
Even the baby said, ah.
I know, everybody's excited.
Yeah, enjoy it.
I won't call you.
Well, the big girls go, so what are you guys going to do? And I said, I don't know, probably sit around naked. And the looks on their face.
You know you're just going to be sleeping.
I know. Happy 4th of July to me.
Right?
Yeah, especially after the 8-month-old put us through the sleepless night last night.
Oh.
She made me, I actually said, I'm so happy you're leaving on Friday. Like, from 1:30 to 3:30, she would not go to sleep. And anytime I'd put her down, whether it was my bed or her bed, the floor in the living room, she'd just scream.
Oh,
Let's talk about parenting things we've picked up from our mothers.
Okay.
What-
Okay.
Have we picked up any from our mothers? My mother used to whack me good. I'm telling you, my Grandma Helen used to whack me.
Some days.
Yeah.
And I know that I whacked a couple of my kids once or twice. But what are some parenting things we've picked up from our parents that are kind of funny now?
Mom and I were kind of talking about this the other day. It's how I'm not like a hypochondriac mom. So Like, I have a kid who comes to me and says, "Oh, I have a sore throat." I'm like, "Here's some salt water. Go gargle. You'll feel better." "I have a headache." "How much water have you drank today?" "Drink a few glasses of water and see how you feel." Whereas
Yeah,
one of
you're a
my
very mellow mom. I can
yeah,
say that about you, Jackie.
one of my moms who the kiddos went home, her kid gets a sore throat and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I gotta rush them to the ER. They have COVID or they have strep, a mosquito bite could be chickenpox. And I understand that hers is a little different considering the fact that her kids lived with me for almost 3 years. So I
Right.
imagine that she's a little more vigilant and stressed out about those things, but I just think it's funny. She would call me and she'd be like, "What do you think about this? This one's had a headache for 2 hours." And I'd be like, "Well, how much water did she drink? Did you give her any Tylenol?" Like, let's run through everything real quick before we rush to taking them to the ER.
Right.
Right.
I'm a rub dirt on it, mom. "Oh, you fell down and scraped
Right.
your elbow. Rub some dirt on it. You'll feel better.
Yep.
We'll wash it
know,
off later."
One thing Sharia does that I think is really funny, it gets the kids to not be too complainy when they get hurt, because kids get hurt constantly.
Oh,
I fell,
yeah.
I hurt my knee, I hurt my arm, I hurt my finger. Her go-to is, "Oh, you hurt it? Should we cut it off?" And she did a Snapchat the other day. She says it all the time, and then they laugh. And Jackson had come in and he hurt his arm or something. And she's like, "Should we cut it off? Go get the saw. Go get the saw." And he's like, "Okay, I'll go get it." And he goes outside and she's like, "I have no idea where he's going right now or what he's doing." And he comes back in with a toy chainsaw and he starts revving it up. She's like, "All right, let's go."
He's
Well,
a little jokester.
That
Yeah.
makes me think of Grandma. Anytime I would sniffle, she'd be like, "Blow your nose or I'll chop it off." And she had this little meat cleaver. And she would hold it up and she would go blow your nose or I'll chop it off.
Which
That must
grandma?
Oh
have
my
another
goodness.
another grandma, not this one.
Maybe the same grandma who fed me ice cream for breakfast. I'm not sure.
Oops.
Well, I know who that one is.
I did too. Ice cream and cookies. I come in and I go, "What are they eating?" "Well, you said they needed to have like milk and cereal, but there's flour and dairy and ice cream and cook." What?
The joys of being a grandparent.
Mom
Yeah,
had her
yep.
fun though too. I remember root beer floats and popcorn for breakfast one
Well,
morning when she
actually,
was in college.
that was when I was going to college and I was in child psychology class, and that was actually a paper I had to write. I had to do something that would be totally out of the ordinary for my children and see what their reactions were. I wrote a whole paper on it, got an A+, by the way. And that's what
You're
I did.
welcome.
I fed you popcorn and root beer floats for breakfast.
Best day of her life. She remembers it still.
Well, they sure did. They just looked and went, "Okay, Mom," and sat down and ate. There was no reaction whatsoever. Like, "Mom's gone over the edge. We're going to just enjoy this right now."
You guys, my 4-month-old passed out in my lap. He's just sitting here drooling all over my hands.
Oh, yeah.
He's going through this phase where he wants to be sitting up all the time, but he can't sit up on his own.
He'll get there.
Working those muscles. He'll
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah.
I do have two more things I want to share.
Go ahead.
Funny things that my children have said. Two that I will never forget.
I know one, I think.
And yeah, you do. It's that one. Shreya was about 4 years old and her foot had fallen asleep. And I've never heard it explained like this, but she just looked and she said, "Mommy, my foot is sprinkling." And I couldn't believe how accurate that description was. And I had never heard it before. I'm like, "You got it, girl. That's exactly what it's doing."
I remember you telling me that, and I did say that is exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, every time you think of it now. And then the other one was Joshua was, let me guess, maybe 5. They were out. We lived in an area where we had woods, and him and his brothers would go out just kind of playing around in the woods. And he came back and he was just so excited. He said, "Mom, I saw a rabbit and I heard it ribbit." I never forgot that. It was
Oh,
just
that's incredibly
so
funny.
cute.
Yes.
I know. So funny.
Kids say funny things. I think
They do.
I know that Sharea's kids are hysterical. And I don't know why. But they're hysterical.
Well, like
Uh,
our last 8-year-old who went home, she would always say every time she'd tell a joke or do something and be like, "Just kidding," she'd be like, "I'm all about the JKs." Every
Good.
Little attitude.
Oh,
I love it.
so much attitude. Levi has a story about her. He had asked me to share this. I think Grandma and I were at
Oh.
bingo,
Bingo.
and the kids that we had before the babies would always give him the hardest time. That's kind of the life of being a foster dad, is when you have these little girls that have experienced trauma, usually at the hands of the men who are supposed to be their caretakers. They don't tend to trust men, and so they are really hard on them. Well, she had thrown this massive fit. It must have been November, because we only had her and the baby at the time, and it had snowed all day, and she was in a flowery, floofy dress, barefoot, and had decided she was going home to her mom. And she took off walking down the sidewalk in the snow, and it must have been below zero. And he just followed her calmly, going, "You need to come home. Come back with me now. Come on, Dee, let's go. Come home. You can't go. You got to come back." And he has this video of her, and he just stayed so calm. And I was like, she'd have stepped one foot out the door, I'd have locked it and been like, "See ya, peace." Waited a few minutes and called the cops. She didn't show back up, but he just followed her all the way down the block, and we live on a big block. She got to the park, and he ran, scooped her up, carried her over his shoulder back home, and continued the fight. Just, he would text me and he would be like, "These kids are driving me crazy. Like, they're screaming and throwing these huge fits." And I'd be like, "Well, do you need me to come home?" And he'd be like, "No, I just wanted to let you know."
Well, somebody's got a lot to say about you, Jackie.
I know she does.
So did Mom share a story? I have a wood tick.
My
Hold
kids
on.
weren't very funny. Hang on. Wood tick. God. Wood ticks. Wood tick on you?
She had to
Wood
go
tick.
flush the wood tick.
Oh my God, it got her. Dear Jesus, let's all pray.
Wood ticks are not deadly. It's okay.
Oh,
Just a bug. And it's a bad year for them.
is it?
Yeah.
A couple weekends ago, me and Jason, we just went away for the weekend, and of course he wanted to do some fishing, so we had stopped at a little creek or something, and he got out and did a little bit of fishing up and down the creek, and I just sat in the car in the sunshine and tried to take a nap. And then we went and so we did that fishing. Then we went and we drove on to the hotel where we spent the night, and then as we're driving back home, we stopped to see his dad and stepmom and had some lunch with them. And then we continue on our trip home. And all of a sudden I'm like, "Okay, don't panic, but there's a spider on the ceiling of the car right above your head. I'm going to get this spider. I'm not going to panic.
You aren't?
I'm going to find a napkin." And then I looked at it again, and it was a wood tick.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I think I freaked out a little bit more.
So
I'm like,
So wood ticks are worse than spiders to you?
well, because if there's one, there's going to be more. And is it stuck to me? And where is it stuck to me? Yeah.
Sometimes there's just one.
This, I'm sure, came off the dog, and even though we've treated her, she probably needs to be treated again. And it was just crawling on my shoulder and went, "Why is that hair?" Oh, that is not a hair. Okay.
One of the reasons I don't live in Minnesota. My funny story.
Okay.
Here's my funny story. Yes, it's funny, baby. Okay. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment on the 3rd floor. I had 3 children. One was a little baby, and one was 11, 10?
10.
10 and 8. And we lived there for a couple years, so you could have been a little older. I don't know. And it's like, okay, we were going to be gone somewhere. Who knows where? We had a rambler where you had to crawl in the windows to get in because we didn't have any money. Anyway, you can't have any kids in the house. And my children always had their friends in the house. Nope, nobody in the house. So we come home and everything's kind of nice. Everything's cool. And I opened a flipping closet door and these kids came out. And I'm like, what in the hell? And they were boys, and I was raising girls. So I don't know why boys were in the closet.
Well, we
And
weren't
no one has
supposed to
ever
have
explained
Care
it
to
me.
explain?
we weren't supposed to have anybody there, and we were there probably watching Starsky and Hutch or something or Beretta, and you came home earlier than we expected. They were all kids you knew. They were my
Right.
gang.
Well, we always let the kids come around.
hmm
Yeah, that
You
was
know-
that
when
was,
you were home.
and those boys, the looks on their faces when I opened that door.
I remember the closet. You walked in the front door, and it was like straight across because then you turned around the half wall to the kitchen. Oh,
It
yeah.
was like the linen closet or something. Yeah.
It's
don't
I
know.
call it the pickle closet because I remember the time we ate the 7 pepper jar of pickles and got in big trouble.
I don't remember that.
Oh, you made it special for somebody. We ate it.
Oh, okay.
Not me.
Not you. No, not you.
So that brings me to something that was asked earlier by Mom, I believe. If there's something we learned from our parents and did, and there were kids here all the time. It didn't matter. We knew there were going to be extra kids. We made extra food. We were feeding them all the time. And that comes from you, Mom. And with, like I said, that family we knew who didn't get to be home in the evening and have family time. And they were just always welcome. And that's something I did too. Kid, you're always welcome. Even to this day, some of these kids that were in our home or at our home all the time, I run into them in public and we are hugging and we say I love you and they call me Mom, and that's something I learned from you.
That's a good thing. I know it's the same way with Margot's kids. For some reason, I come home. I came home one time from our cabin, not this one, but the other one. And I couldn't walk in my living room because there was a band practice the night before. And
right.
I want you to know you couldn't walk. And I'm like, laughing my head off. And no one's there. They're all gone. I thought they all got arrested. It's
Yeah.
hysterical.
We all tend to criticize our parents sometimes. And I guess, no, I'm not going to say we do. Society tends to do that. And
I do it.
like, you had terrible parents, Jackie. I know you did.
It's not that. Who among us didn't say, when I have kids, I'm going to let them, or I'm not doing that. I'm going to do things so different. I'm not going to be like my mom. Every single one of us, I guarantee.
Of course we did. Absolutely. I'm just talking as adults. No, I guess I listen to a lot of things where people are always saying it's their parents' fault. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah.
People
do blame their parents for things, and there comes a point. Yeah, your parents have control for a while, and then you do things because of the way you were raised. But then there comes a point when, okay, you've been an adult a long time now.
Mhm.
Your decisions are your decisions.
Mhm.
Yep.
Personal
you can't blame anybody
accountability.
but yourself now.
Yep, exactly.
Exactly.
And I know here we raised our kids to be personally accountable. They didn't like us a lot when they had to pay their own car insurance, and they could not get their driver's license unless they had a B average. And I don't know, I still to this day don't know if I was right or wrong, but what I wanted them to learn is that they had to be contributing people to society and following rules and laws and making choices that will get them what they want and working for what they want rather than
Hell, that's
being
your job as a
handed.
parent.
Right.
That's
That
your
is
job.
the job
is
as a
to-
parent.
Yeah, to
And
raise
you-
children who turn into adults that can function in society, pay their own way, and all of those things.
And I think all of you, all three of you have raised good children. All three of you guys have kids who are responsible adults.
Hands down we have. And that came from somewhere, Mom. I don't know if we learned it from your mistakes or from what you did right, but that came from somewhere. You get to take credit there.
Combination of both.
Yep.
I
You and
guarantee
Dad. You and Dad. We cannot forget Dad in that whole scenario.
Dad? Who's Dad?
Yeah.
We don't talk about Dad here.
Oof, Dad.
He's eating brownies somewhere.
Do we need to have
Boy.
a health moment? We need to have a health moment.
I better correct what I just said. Dad was the best. He was really the best. He saved our family. So
Even when
cool.
he and I were fighting knockdown, drag out fights, mind you, not abusive fights, but knockdown, drag out. Let me tell you, they were not something I would ever want to experience with a child of my own. When I was quite a young teenager, I wouldn't change or trade any one of those moments for anything in the world because they shaped who I am.
There's a couple of them I'd like to erase.
There are, Mom. But did you hear what I said? They shaped who
Yes.
I am. So I learned. It taught me something. Okay. Don't need to be
And
more heavy.
I want to say too, you guys have raised millennials. And that is a generation that doesn't necessarily adhere to the responsibilities of life or understand that they have an obligation to society.
Well, I think out of our, what do we have? 10?
10.
10. I think they got this. I have no doubt.
They got it.
Okay.
So should our health moment be about mental health for moms? What do you say, Shelley?
That's a great idea. Let's talk about that. What are some things that are good for our mom mental health?
Sleep.
Sleep is key. Huge. Yep. And, they talk a lot about self care nowadays. And there's something to that. Like when you're on an airplane, they say you have to put your own face mask on first before you put it on someone else. So you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of somebody else, because you've got to have it to give in order to be able to give it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So what are some things, Jackie, you do with small children? Do you have any time to take care of yourself?
It's pretty rare these days, but when I remember that I have this beautiful big giant soaking tub in my basement before the babies are in bed, I'll ask my husband if he minds if I run downstairs and take a quick bath, and he's like, take a long one.
Yeah, that's great.
And he always gets mad at me for asking. Why are you asking? Just go do it.
Because it's
You don't
just
need
courtesy.
my permission.
That's good. That's good. How about you, Kelly, Margot, Mom? What are some things you do to take care of yourself, to rejuvenate?
I
Yeah.
come home every
I don't
day
know.
to my hill and my place of serenity. And my husband once told me, leave the troubles on the hook at the end of the driveway. Just leave them there. He learned that from a seminar. And come up this hill, and nothing that was out there in the world matters. And when I was bringing work home, stressful stuff home, he literally put a hook on the post, a nice sign in the driveway to remind me, leave the baggage there and come home. And that is, I come home to this, and it was 95 degrees today. You all know I have no air conditioning, but the breeze on the hill is phenomenal. So once I open the windows and everything, put the fan on, it's beautiful.
That's good. That's good. So you hang up any work worries, life worries that don't need to come home with you for the night, and you let it go, and you just be with your husband. That's very good. That's really good.
Or tonight with you people.
Right.
Yeah.
What about
Us
as a
people.
parent, Mom?
As a parent,
when we were all home.
I used to take baths, and I don't know if you remember this, but it would be a night I was taking a bath, and your dad would take care of you kids, and he would come in and go, do you need your glass of wine filled? Do you need anything? He was so awesome about that.
How
Awesome.
is it that all three of you girls married your father? How is that?
Well,
Different versions of him, but yeah. Yep.
They all are like that.
Jackie
Yes.
married somebody very much like her dad. We talk about that all the time.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, she did.
How did that happen? We got lucky.
I would say so.
You know how it happened? We got lucky with Dad, who taught us how to find the right kind of man. Taught us what a real man needs to be, because he was very young when when he became our dad. He was very young.
I was gonna say we got lucky that our parents chose good men for us to model what we want.
Yeah.
That's true. One of the things that I think is good for me is to make peace with my past, because I don't want it to affect my present anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an important thing, mental health thing. for a
So
mo-
mistakes you've made, you let it go, because worrying about it, being concerned about it, regretting it doesn't do anything for you
does nothing.
No.
Nothing.
except make you feel worse. Right.
And if I had a basket of the things I did right and the things I did wrong, one of them would be a lot fuller than the other one.
Mom, you've got to
That's the
stop
same for all of
that.
us.
You got to stop that. You do. If you're trying to make, or if one of your things is to make peace with your past with any of us, we're past it.
Yep.
We are past it. So erase that from your basket.
Right.
Put it in the other one.
Another thing that helps me to think is what other people think about me is none of my business.
Nope.
They can.
Ooh, I
keep
like
it.
that.
They can keep it.
Yep. Doesn't matter.
It's more their problem than yours, because if they take the time to be concerned about you, they aren't being concerned about their own lives. It's more their problems than yours.
Yeah. Now, Kelly, you like to take baths to relax. Jackie likes
used
to,
to.
and that's my
Yeah.
big thing. That's my big deal is bathing to relax and that was always the place where my kids wanted to be, because we only had one bathroom and they always had to poop when I was in the bathtub. Oh,
That's so funny you say that, Graham, because I have a friend who was telling me that that always happens at her house too. She says the second I get in the tub, my son has to come in and poop every single time. And she thinks
oh,
it's going to change if she gets a house with 2 bathrooms.
nope.
Nope. Jackie, I told you, just wait until toddlers and you try to go to the bathroom and have some peace and whatever, and you'll see the fingers under the door. Mommy!
Well, it's kind of like that with cats.
It is like that with
Margo.
cats as well.
Margo, what do you do with your mental health?
I just put it in a box and put it on a shelf somewhere and forget about it.
That's so funny.
No, you craft, you crochet or knit. Is
Well,
that relaxing?
she didn't always when her kids were young. She didn't always do that. And she's always worked.
I think all of us have
Yeah.
always worked in one way or another.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Even
That's
you, Mom.
funny you say that, Margot, about putting it in a box, because somebody asked me how I'm dealing with this kiddo going on Friday, and I said it's in a compartment. I'll deal with it later. I don't have time for that right now.
You know, Jackie, though,
Yeah.
you did know this was going to happen, and you have been
Mhm.
supportive of this reunification.
Yeah, once they contacted me and I started having this open conversation with the cousin, I was able to start to let go.
Right.
But it was like pure panic mode up until she contacted me, because I didn't want them to take her away.
Well, because you didn't know the situation.
Correct.
And that's scary.
You always
But
think
it's
worst case scenario.
and it's all right to hold it together during this time, but you also need to know that it's all right to feel it.
Right.
After those kiddos went home last year,
But you still see them. See, I told you they'll always be a part of your life.
They
Always. They know
I haven't
where you
seen
are.
them since before COVID, but I was supposed to see them this Sunday, but their mom texted and said that they got exposed to COVID and she didn't want to bring them around people till
Oh.
their test came back. But we do talk. Like the kids will call me at least once a month, sometimes multiple times a week, and just tell me all about what's going on and how big their kittens have gotten. And
Well,
Yeah.
and that's
They
incredible.
always will know you.
It's incredible, Jackie, because you know that if they are allowed to call you and talk to you about what's going on in their lives, they are safe and things are
Right.
going as they should go. So
right,
it is okay to break down.
I
Been there.
can, will, and do.
Yes. And you have a great support system from your
Mhm.
husband to your extremely huge extended family. You've got a great support
Well,
system.
I called one of my friends who was advocating for the baby to stay with us, and told her that she was going home or going to this family, and she was like, "Well, do you need to drink? You just call me if you need to drink. We'll go drink it." And I was
There
like,
you go.
I can't, but okay.
Mhm.
Thanks for the offer. And she's like,
It's still
I know
done.
it's not the best coping mechanism, but that's all I could offer right now is if you need to drink, I'm there.
There you go. Yeah. You still have 3 other kiddos at home, and
Mm-hmm.
but Mom will be
Margo,
here
do
if
you
you
have
need
a
to
fun-
talk.
Does Margo have a fun fact for the day?
Today was a pretty bland day in history unless you like tennis. There's a lot of tennis stuff that happened and golf stuff that happened.
Raising my hand, I love
But
tennis.
otherwise, but a couple things did happen, which this one's kind of interesting because I just found this new show on Amazon and it's called something like Emergency 999.
Mm.
So over in Europe, they don't have 911, they have 999. And today in 1937, the first 999 call was made in London. So
What was that for?
that's like, what was the first call? I don't
Oh,
know what it was.
I just thought maybe you did.
It's just that's just when their service started. But yeah, it's like following the paramedics and the police and all of that stuff as they get called out on their 999 calls. This show on Amazon is pretty cool because first of all, who doesn't love all things British?
True.
Margo does.
Second, who doesn't love all things reality TV that might
True.
involve naked people running around the street?
Oh, I was going for cops because I love cop shows, but okay.
And so far, I've watched one episode and there's been one naked guy. So we'll see if there's a naked guy in every episode. We'll see.
Oh,
we'll
goodness.
expect a report next podcast. What now? What is
Sure
this
thing.
you're watching? Shout it out.
It's something like Emergency 999, something like that. And then also today in history, 1955, Johnny Carson's show, I can never say this word.
Debuted.
Debuted. Thank you. on CBS, which my husband just found a podcast that plays old Johnny Carson interviews of him and his, actors and actresses and all those people that he had on the show. And it's kind of interesting.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah, I'll have to find out from him what it's called. And then in 1967, there was the first Nathan's hot dog eating contest that took place. And it was on this day for the 100th anniversary of the invention of the hot dog. And so this one gentleman, Walter, who was a 32-year-old truck driver who weighed over 400 pounds, and he won by eating 127 hot dogs.
Oh, I'm gonna
Gross.
no.
Good.
Because it's not now, I'm not sure, because this was the first one. I wasn't sure if they also had to eat the bun with it too, or if it was just hot dog. I don't know.
Either way.
Either way.
A gross amount of food. And then today, in 1975, Shelley Robertson disappeared in Colorado and was found 7 weeks later, dead in a mine shaft. And she was one of Ted Bundy's victims.
Yep, I do know that. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So there you
No
go.
murder.
I thought I would end it on a
murder note.
on a high note for you there, Shelley.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah, but otherwise, there's just a lot of golf and tennis stuff that happened today in history, and that stuff's just not fun. Not like hot dogs and British reality and Ted Bundy murders.
Fun! Wow.
So Margot, it's so funny that we never got to connect you with my friend Glenn from Great Britain when we were there, because he's a cop, or he's a retired cop from England, and he has stories, and we were supposed to come out in September, but he let us know today that their trip is going to have to be postponed a year because of, frickin' Nora.
The C19 thing.
Oh, my boss calls her Nora.
Well, you'll have to
Nora.
Why?
Corona? Oh, no, not Nora. Rona. Sorry.
I'm like, Rona. Rona makes sense.
Mixed up some words.
Rona.
Yeah. Calls her Rona.
Kelly.
Some days.
Well, Riley got some good news today. Woo-hoo. They have allowed for travel for airmen, but they are not allowed to travel to red states. And guess what state is red right now?
Montana.
How do you?
Because we have had record number of cases every day. Right now, we're sitting at 967. Yeah, that's what's written on our board. Riker keeps our board updated every day of Corona stuff.
Columbia.
And right now, we're at 967 cases.
Columbia had 1,067 cases reported today. Columbia, South Carolina.
Holy cow.
That's in one day.
We had like 46 today.
They're having 1,000 a day.
Oh.
Yeah, the
I
southern
bet you
states
that's a red state.
Yeah. Well, Minnesota's not red. He
kind
can
of
come visit us.
He can. Except Shelley, we're going away again.
True.
Yeah. So then I asked him, I said, well, does that mean that people from a red state are not supposed to come visit you? Or does it just mean you can't go to a red state? And he said he would have to find out about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misreported that fact. South Carolina record high, 1,741 new cases Tuesday.
Wow. So the second wave is coming.
Yeah, it's just kind of going around the country, I think it's their first big wave down there. But technically,
Yeah. I know Florida's really bad.
Well, I know that they reported that there's been over 10 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, or in the world. And there have been 500,000 deaths. So what is that? A 5% death rate? Am I doing my math in my head right? 10 million.
I wasn't
I'm
even
not a man.
I was told there would be no math.
I'm with her.
Yeah. But the cases of people who are being hospitalized are going down.
Right.
Like, yes, you are having people who are testing positive. That's only because the testing has increased dramatically.
Exactly.
But the actual hospitalizations are not climbing at the same rate as the positive cases.
Correct.
So,
and like I said, I have a coworker who got tested and said he'd already had it. So I would love to go get tested, but I'm not one of those that gets to go get a free test because I didn't go bust up in the middle of Minneapolis and, whatever. Sorry, might have to remove that.
Might have to.
My honest thoughts. Anyway, I don't get to go get a free test unless I, get sick or something. So don't know. Think I had it, but I have no idea.
And they're not touching my brain and getting my DNA. So
Do you think that's really the conspiracy theory behind it? They're getting all these people to do the mass testing so they can have your DNA?
yes.
Really? I hadn't heard that
Yes.
one.
Margot said it on a different podcast.
Must have
Yeah.
No, I
not have
yeah.
listened to
I
that
have to
one
go.
18 times yet. What, Jackie?
Speaking,
Okay.
I
Okay.
have to go.
Jackie's got to go.
yeah.
Okay,
Speaking of
love you,
DNA,
honey.
ladies.
Love you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being
Love you.
here.
Bye. Love
Love
you.
you.
Bye.
We love you.
All right.
Yeah.
Fun, interesting stuff.
Very good. It was good to talk to
Yes.
Jackie, so I'm glad she could make it.
I am too, and I hope that the other children's listen and want to be a guest someday. All the moms laugh. Oh, funny. All right, ladies. Love you
Okay.
all.
Love you guys.
Love you.
Talk
Love
to you this
you.
week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, guys. I
love
love
you.
you all.
Bye-bye.